When is the nerf happening? I don't know. But you know what's weird? You know what's weird about that nerf? They were talking about like the FSOA, right? They were talking about the FSOA, and they were talking about it being a rune guzzler. Like it just swallowed too many runes. It was like, I'm like, that's the trade-off. Because you gotta remember, the Fracture Staff of Armadale, the Staff of Armadale, is an elder weapon. It's called the Siphon. You get what I'm saying? Because you had 12 elder artifacts? And we actually now have one of them. We're dealing with the first one physically as a weapon in the game. And I'm expecting the same weapon that had massively, hurt Gothics. It basically killed Gothics. I would expect it to do a lot of damage. Like the crits. Like I was reading through like the little things they were mentioning, and they were like, oh, the recursive nature, and I'm like, then why don't you should have just named the special ability recursive, because the fact that it throws out another auto attack means the succession could hit again of another crit. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because I had to look up recursive on what it meant, and I'm like, but this is amazing, because the FSOA was the first weapon, from my understanding, to actually deal with auto attacks. No other weapon dealt with auto attacks. Like, they always showed it on the weapon. You get what I'm saying? Damage is 12, 11? Or whatever. Like, that's the first weapon to deal with auto attacks. So I'm assuming that are they gonna... It's like, does auto attacks get raised with sunshine? You get what I'm saying? Like, if so, then what is using ability damage gonna do? But then they were saying, like, oh, if it uses ability damage, like the ability damage, it won't use runes. But then again, that's what the payoff was, using such a powerful weapon to give you such burst after you set everything up, after you did sunshine, tsunami, staff spec. That was the whole trade-off, is that I need a downside to this weapon, which will be a lot of runes being used. It's a lot of power that maintains this weapon's use. It's a siphoning of the runes that you're using from the pouch to give me all this damage. That's what the weapon is called. The FSOA is called the Siphon. And I think that was where it kind of shined. And the fact that we were using the Grimoire with it, the Grimoire made it kind of interesting, because that was the second trade-off. It cost a lot of money to use for the Grimoire, unless you farmed it yourself, and the runes unless you farmed it for yourself, to give me all this power. That was amazing. Even Carapac had said it. Carapac was like, witness the raw power of the staff. And then he went into the ground, and you just saw a big old wave of lightning come toward you. I was like, okay, I'm witnessing it. I'm witnessing this raw power he talking about. So if that's the case, we needed to see that. And it was funny too. I was watching the interviews that RuneScape had put out, and I think it was Mod Ramen. He was like, because he said the same thing I'll always be saying about RuneScape. He's like, no, yeah, he's like, we're not stupid here. We have the data, and I be saying the same shit. I'm like, dog, RuneScape not stupid. They know what they talking about. So in my opinion, I think they needed a year worth of data to look at the FSOA and seeing people what they do with it, to be like, okay, this is what we can do with it, and this is what we can't do with it. Which was, they need an experiment with it. That's really what we're all here doing. We're here experimenting with the weapon, giving them the data they need, and be like, okay, all right, here's the parameters. Here's the highest form, and here's the lowest form over here. And we got to do something in the middle to try to figure that out. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But let me look at the let me look at this. Let me look at the what is it? Let me look at on screen. Let me look at on screen. Where's that Reddit post? No, it's this one. Yeah, let's look at it. Because I never talked about it. So they nerf it. You know what? I was looking up the RuneScape interview again. Like, you know, on the channel. And he was saying the same shit I was saying. Like, what's it called? Like, you know how Anime Dead, it reduces damage periodically throughout the duration of the fight? And I was like, okay, so essentially over the whole fight, they were like, okay, it's going to reduce 100,000, maybe 50,000 damage periodically over like a long ass time, which is, it's amazing. Because back then, if you were fighting a boss solo, you wanted some reprieve to live. So with the FSOA, let me just stick with the FSOA because I already talked about Anime Dead. Alright, let me see. Alright, hold on. Let me put it on screen. Hold on. Right, so this is it. So the FSOA, right? Let's just read it. Since the release of the FSOA, the weapon has been bringing death and destruction to anything in its path. Yeah, that's true. That's a true statement. Both monsters and runes. And then here's the main thing that is true. Assuming that you hit the RNG rolls enough, which is true because sometimes this weapon ain't. If it don't crit, it don't work. It's a crit stick. And we all know crit is by chance. Alright, so when it comes to the FSOA, weave. So the people at RuneScape definitely have been looking at this. So weave. Right, the auto attack problem. Right, being auto-based means that the weapon has excessively high upkeep cost. Well, that's the price of having such an amazing weapon that mainly deals with auto attacks. Then where are all the other runes gonna go? You need to siphon the runes to do heavy damage. And the fact that the grasping pouch saves 25%, that's even better for you. So I don't know about this extreme, excessively. And if we look up the word excessive, to a greater degree in amounts that is necessary, normal, or desirable, and let's just go to the overly ridiculous. That I think that's to people who really don't understand what's going on with it. I think so. I don't think it was excessively high, but that's what they think. It feels bad to use the special, particularly against lower end bosses. Who the hell would use it against lower tier bosses? The only lower tier boss I would think of is what, God of War's 2? I don't think you're gonna use it against God of War's 1 or anything lower. I don't think so. I don't get it. That makes no sense. The damage value is of a individual shots, right? From the spec is hard to adjust due to the combat system. Just passing auto attack through the staff. That doesn't make sense because it's calculated. The fact that you can see how much damage you're doing. Hold on. You can see how much damage you're potentially gonna do with the staff if you go to stats. Like you would just go to main hand and... Matter of fact, let me just put on my main hand gear. Right, so if you just put on the staff and you go to... Hold on. You just go to equipment and you go down here and you can see how much you're going to do. So abilities is 2142, but the auto attack is 3304, quote unquote. I'm just quote unquoting. So I'm going to be doing more auto damage than spells. That's what I'm thinking. So it's like the auto attacks make sense. I think so. It really makes sense to me. So let's just continue reading. Let's just continue reading. Okay, the weapon is putting a big okay, now read this, right? So this is the thing that's interesting. The weapon is putting a design restriction on critical strike. So if we just take that by ear, right? Like if we just take it as is, that means they're trying to create more crit stuff, like, you know, more critical strike stuff. I think that's what they're trying to do, because later they're gonna say like, oh, it turns into infinite damage, which when it first came out, like that first couple days, yeah, it was kind of goofy. That was infinite damage, which is true. That's infinite damage. But since they had tweaked it, I think a couple times, it tuned down. It tuned it down. Right? So, as the recursive nature of the special attack means that any future unlocks that affect critical strike push the special close to going infinite, which is true. But that's what I expect from an elder weapon, like an elder god weapon. That's what I think. I think that it's supposed to be that strong, because remember, if we look at the elder weapons, and if we seen throughout the game's history, and if we seen what it did to other people in the game, when Lucian had the Staff of Armadale, he instantly eviscerated Helzamir. He went into a poof of smoke. Him and a few other people just went into a puff of smoke. When we were in the Majorat, like, you know, the ritual of the Majorat, if we touched Lucian in that boss fight, we got hit for like 7k, and he's like, don't even touch me. This fight is with me and him. So the player, couldn't even touch Lucian with the staff. It's like it almost had like an invincible thing around him. And if we see Zamorak, he stabs Zeros in the chest with the Staff of Armadale. So we understand that it can kill elder gods, or the tier of godhood. We understand it's a god-killing weapon, because we've seen the death of, well, I don't want to say the death of Zeros, but Zamorak ascended to godhood by stabbing him in the chest in that one quest, and we've seen Sliske use it, and it killed Guthix, or it severely wounded him into death. So I would say, yeah, that it needs to be that strong. The infinite crit, you know what, the only way I could think about lowering the damage is kind of like how the Saren God Bow is. Like, you know how the Saren God Bow, it says, like, I think what hit through 2 through 5 or something like that, it scales down in damage. And I'm like, you know what, that if you want to nerf it to the ground similar to that, I can see what you're saying. I get that. If you want to go that route, because you still need the upkeep from the runes, and I don't think ability power is going to match that auto attack. I don't think so. But let's just continue. Let's just continue with it. Right? So the damage output of the staff is hitting limits of what we're... Hold on, that's interesting. The damage output of the staff is hitting limits of what we are comfortable with. That doesn't make any sense. Look how they just said it. The damage output of the staff is hitting the limits of what we're comfortable with. That means, look how it's read. It says we're comfortable with the limits of the damage that is doing. They should have just said the damage output of the staff is hitting the limits of what we are not comfortable with. That's how they should have said it. And far beyond what we've previously introduced. That doesn't make any sense. So this whole part doesn't make any sense. So we're less able to create new rewarding upgrades for Magic players. Okay, so yeah, this doesn't make any sense. How it's read and like, I don't get it. So meaning we're less able to create new rewarding upgrades for Magic players. That is, I don't. But you see how it's read. That's how it's read there. So I don't. I don't know. That looks kind of odd. Okay, so is hitting limits of what we're. Alright, whatever. The changes we have in mind are focused on the FSOA's special attack. The special attack no longer deals auto attack damage, but instead the extra hit is passed through as an ability. Okay. This means there's no longer the cost of runes for an extra hit. I don't like that. Because you're slowly turning it into there's no downside to this staff. Like I'm just by this alone, there's no downside already. A projectile is no longer sent from the player to the target as expected from an auto attack. Ooh. Okay. That's so okay, so that's interesting. You know why this is interesting? A projectile is no longer sent from the player. Is the only thing I could think of is that ability damage is instantly gonna proc. Instead of like, the travel time from player to NPC or like player to boss or whatever, it's instantly gonna hit. So pretend if like you had like a 0.6 seconds from Zamrak's big old red bomb to you, it would automatically go through as a hit instantly. So okay, all right. That's interesting. Yeah, a projectile is no longer sent from the player. That's interesting. That's interesting. Instead, the green lightning effect from the special attack cast animation will play on the target when hit with an extra hit from a successful proc. Okay. So we'll see basically when it's procking. Like you'll just see something on you. Alright. It gives you more visual cues on when something. Oh, alright. I didn't see a problem before, but okay. Why? I don't know why this is a thing. Yeah, that's just visual cues. Instead of like seeing the crit, you'll see that. Okay. Special attack effect can no longer trigger off itself, removing the recursive nature. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna hurt the FSOA extremely. Because that was the uniqueness, that was the real uniqueness of the FSOA. The fact that it can crit off itself, that's taken away the unique ability of itself. But the fact that they're trying to always go with like crit, then that's gonna be rough. This is gonna be rough to deal with. Okay, the special attack effect now deals 60 to 120. that's also bad. Because even at the lower tier, because let's just look at it again, right? Let's just look at it. With base stats, power armor, and everything, right? No overload. If it hits 60%, right? And at the current moment, just holding the staff, I have 2142. All right, let's just do some calculations real quick. What's 60% of 2142? That's only gonna do 1.2, 1.3k. So if it does an attack, and if it triggers off itself, it would only do 1 point close to 3k. But then again, you can upgrade it with 50%, which is the Sunshine, and then Vaughn Bomb. So that might be better. Might be. And the average, I don't believe this, but if they're saying it on the Reddit, that means they've already tried it. That means I believe this is what they already tried. Yeah, that means they know this is the average of, like, you know, that thing with the chart, the lowest is 60, the average is 90, which is up here, and then the highest is like 120. All right, so okay, that it's kind of that. I don't like it, because that 60 is already hurting. But I'm just hoping that it's just gonna be bad. Because ultimately we just gotta see. And yeah, it's nerfed. But that's the thing. It's like, it's either these new bosses that's gonna come out, these new quests are gonna come out, or this necromancy skill. It's either going to go into the FSOA or into the current styles that we have, or they just said we're just nerfing it to the ground because people who think and never used it just want to nerf it to the ground. It's like that's what I'm thinking. I don't think people who have the FSOA right now, it's amazing. All of us love the FSOA. I don't think there's nobody here who has an FSOA and knows how to use it, thinks it's like bad. Because we know how good it can be with crits, and we know how bad it could be with no crits. We know how bad and good it is. So that's the two sides of the world that I think with the anime dead. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, not anime dead, sorry, FSOA. My bad, I don't know why I had anime dead on my mind. So what this means is the effective damage of the FSOA, that means the one that's going out, will be moved to a balanced place. I'm getting sick of this word. This is basically moved to a place where we can mess around with, where it performs as a weapon of that level should. As a result, this is like the 4th time they mentioned recursive, while also becoming less of a rune-eating fiend. That has nothing to do with anything. While this does reduce the power of the FSOA from where it is today, this makes the ability. Hold on, this makes the ability much easier for us to control. The special. They should have just said this makes the special much easier for us to control and balance. And ultimately means that we'll be able to... So ultimately, that means at the end of the day, right? So this is really what they're saying, from my understanding. And lastly, means we'll be able to introduce more upgrades that synergize with magic, critical strike, and the staff, that we couldn't do without addressing this first. So that means that they are coming out with they're coming out with more upgrades, right? Because ultimately, it means that we can now introduce, or show more upgrades that go together with magic, critical strike chance, and the staff. Right? So essentially they were like, okay, we can't really progress further in the game with all this new stuff unless we... Alright, I get it, I get it. Cause like what's it called? Like company-wise. Yeah, company-wise, I get it. Cause they were... Yeah, I get it. Yeah, cause company-wise, they were like, look, man, we can't because this is interfering. Alright, I get it. And the longevity of the game, I get it. So bringing other weapons up to this level is unfortunately not an option, as it would introduce the same problems to other styles. Okay, so we're not getting no more crit sticks besides the FSOA. If that's the case, so bringing other weapons up to this level is not, yeah, it's not an option, as it would introduce the same design problems and ultimately create less exciting options for future content. Right? So I get it. I get what they're saying. I get it. I get what they're saying. I get it. It's gonna be real hard to see the FSOA go like that. But yeah, it's true. We just here as consumers of the game, and they need to do what they need to do to keep their game running and having the longevity that it has been so far. So I get it. It's gonna be real hard to see it go, to see how good that oh my god, it's gonna be rough to see it go. It's gonna be real rough to see it go. But the only thing about the anime dead thing, this is the only thing I don't like about the anime dead change, is like 15%. That's a little excessive. I would have said 65, but you already know how people are. They would rather see it have none. So I want to say 65. I don't want to say 60. That's a little too low. So I would have rather 65. Damage reduction, I would have said this is kind of, that's also hurting, but it is what it is. But this is the only thing I have a gripe with. It only works versus core damage. So phase 7 of Zamorak, that phase 7 of Zamorak is going to be a killer because you're getting hit constantly with 300s, and throughout that whole duration of the fight, you're going to be destroyed. You're getting like another 3k worth of damage, typeless damage on top of you. Because in reality, I'm like, yeah, you can do 2000% rage, 4000%, but in reality, who the hell is gonna do that? Nobody. Like, you can have somebody, of course, because that option is always there, but I don't think that's gonna be really feasible. So I say no. I don't think that's gonna, this is really bad. This is bad. Because that's the only place I could think of with typeless damage that we constantly see. Versus, like, you know, the little bleed in Virago. I don't know if that hits you like that. But other than that, that's the only thing I have a really bad thing with. This is really going to be bad. I feel bad for people who never did Zamorak yet, and they're waiting for some reason. This is gonna work real hard against them. Unless they upgrade the Infernal Puzzle Box to be like 85%, 90%, to kind of, I don't want to say, balance it out, to balance out that 300, because that's rough, man. I'm telling you, if you've never done Zamorak and you want to do it without anime dead, that shit hurts. You're going to be dead quick. You're going to be dead extremely quick. Yeah. Even at 500%, it's hard. Cause I got to 2k, that 300 damage adds up quick, and it's not a one miss. Like it adds up quick. So this is bad. That's the only real gripe I have with it. Yeah. And they were talking about how, oh, players just ignore the mechanics such as Rune of Destruction. No, that doesn't make any sense because typically all the people who really got to higher in rages like 1k plus, you moving. Unless you're just, like I moved all the time. I don't care, because that shit hurts over time. Because it was hitting what, 1k to 2ks? Nah, you're moving. That's a lie. This is they're talking about lower level enrages. Yeah, this is just a plain out lie. This is a lie. I know it is because I already did it. Yeah, because 100% you can tank it. Just anticipate a freedom. True. 500,000, 2,000? Nah, you're not standing still for nobody. That's a lie. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole. That's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on the FSOA. Yeah, that makes sense.